Hello, my Earth Angel friends. Reverend Elvia here, founder of AngelsTeach.com. Welcome to another Messages from the Angels. This is the month of June 2013, and the weather is just glorious. Those of us in New England are just like, yes, we've been waiting for this. It was a long winter, so we're very excited. Next thing I want to do actually before we get into this is just take a moment to say a prayer of peace for all those folks in Turkey and really around the globe who are struggling with where they live, what their governments are like, lack of freedom, lack of ability to speak their truth, and just be. And so let's just pause together for a moment to join together in prayer for all those who are struggling at this time, and send them that love, peace, forgiveness that they need. Blessed be. Let's get started with the reading. There are 3 objects, just as we have done before. I would like you to choose one of the 3 objects, and I do very strongly recommend that you tune into your higher guidance and choose the object, not that your head necessarily is drawn to, but what your heart is drawn to, what your angels are guiding you to. So our 3 objects for this month are, who's going to come first? A Tibetan prayer wheel. This is something I picked up at a Tibetan shop in Boston. The idea is that you put your prayers into it, and as you spin it, it broadcasts the prayers out to the universe. So object number 1, a Tibetan prayer wheel. Object number 2 is something familiar to most of you, cell phone. Doesn't have to be an iPhone, cell phone. And object number 3 is a little bigger, so I had to store it across the way. A pool skimmer. This is what you use to scoop the leaves and other things, bugs, other little things that fall in the pool, out of the pool. So what I'd like you to go ahead and do right now, if you need to pause the video, go ahead and do that, but make sure that you've chosen one of those 3 things, either the Tibetan prayer wheel, the cell phone, or the pool skimmer. The cards we're going to be using for this reading are Tony Carmen Salerno's Angels, Gods, and Goddesses deck, one of my favorites. We actually use this for training in the Master's class, the Angel Communication Master's class. And I'm going to start with the prayer wheel. Just wanted to tune in and make sure I was doing this in the order the angels are asking me to. So, first reading is for this beautiful, those of you who chose this beautiful little Tibetan prayer wheel. I'm already starting to get part of the message. And the card for those of you who chose this object is, drum roll please. Okay. It is the Angel of New Life. Beautiful. So the message I was starting to get is that Tibet, as you may know, was taken over by China, and the inhabitants of Tibet, the Tibetans, were forced to leave, many of them. And new government took over just as that unrest that's happening in Turkey right now, a revolution of sorts. And the Angel of New Life is all about a new beginning. And sometimes that new beginning is extremely unsettling. You look at what the Tibetans faced when China invaded. You look at that revolution and what the people who are fighting for their freedom in Turkey right now and what they're up against, those fears. And I have never been in that situation, so I don't want to pretend to feel like I have that experience. And yet if I were to imagine, I would think that it would feel like there's just this huge mountain, and that it's really hard to see to the other side of what that revolution, what that big upheaval looks like. So for those of you who picked this object, there is something in your life that is feeling like it's an insurmountable mountain, that it's a huge obstacle and it's very difficult to see to the other side of what that is right now. And this is a message of real hope for you. And it's about resurrection is what I'm hearing. It's about rising up out of the ashes like the phoenix. Very drawn to the moon over her head. It's like freshness. It's like purity. And the rainbow that's coming out of it, it's just acceptance for everything. Acceptance for all ways of life, for all ways of being. And huge energy within this card. So for those of you who chose this, this is a very, very profound, big message for you, because there's a lot of intensity behind it. My advice for you, for those of you who chose this object, is I was actually reading this book, I Declare, by Joel Osteen, and the book talks about these mountains that I refer to and how important it is not to just pray, not to simply affirm, but to really speak directly to them. And what I love about that wisdom is that it's something that we often overlook. In other words, if your mountain is about debt or about poor health or is about a job loss, whatever that mountain is, talk to it, speak to it, and demand that it be gone. Demand that it leave, and that the power of your angels and the divine source of all that is much stronger than that mountain is. And that your faith can actually move that mountain, because it will. And that will help you to see to the other side. So I definitely recommend that you try that you speak to that mountain per se, and demand that it needs to leave, and that you are working with your angels. You've made that decision, you've made it with certainty, and nothing is going to stand in your way. Okay, so the next object, the angels are doing this in a different order, just as they did last month, excuse me, is the pool skimmer. It's going to have a very different message from the Tibetan prayer wheel. I can already feel it. Obviously very different kind of object, and yet sometimes the angels can surprise us with how messages come through. I actually just wrote about a message in toenail design this morning, believe it or not. And the card that's coming forward for the pool skimmer, for those of you who chose this object, is the Angel of the Universe. First thing I'm drawn to is the blue, because it's very much like the color of the pool skimmer. I'm going to show you. You got that card up there, and look at the color of this pool skimmer. So the color blue is important for you. There's a lot of variations on the color blue within this card, but I'm hearing ocean, I'm hearing sky. So first level of this message is to get outside, to be near the water, to touch the sky, to really experience all those colors, especially the blues, that only nature can bring to you. And looking into your heart, I'm seeing the Angel of the Universe. She's actually looking into her heart center. It looks like her eyes are closed, but in this reading I'm seeing her looking within. And it's through looking within and acknowledging all that lies there, through joy, through that experience that you have outdoors, communing with nature, connecting with the different colors, again, especially the blue, is going to awaken something within you that has been dormant. And I'm hearing actually dormant for many, many years. So while this certainly doesn't have the gravity of the message from the Tibetan prayer wheel, this does feel like a very important and significant message that is something very important for you not to deny, because these seemingly trivial things of hanging out by the pool or going to the ocean or, staring up at the clouds in the sky are really essential for your development, for your spiritual growth, for you connecting with the passion that lies within. Because if you've chosen this object, the chances are I'm hearing it's not just the chances are, you probably are feeling that your passions are muted right now, that they're not close to the surface, that they're buried a little bit. So this is your invitation to get out into the world, to experience all that it has to offer. Connecting with nature, so important. And especially again with those blues, water. I do hear a lot about water in this message. So make sure that you take some time, especially just for you, to snuggle up with the water. So our final object for today is, of course, the cell phone. And mine, unfortunately, is quite dirty. I have a feeling that's going to come into the reading here. It's dirty just because we've had so much pollen, and it's like you can dust something off and 20 seconds later there's dust on it again. It's kind of crazy. But for whatever reason, it feels like that's going to become part of the reading, so just tuck that away. And the card for those of you who chose the cell phone is the Angel of Soul Love. Interesting, very similar to the Angel of the Universe. So a couple things I'm noticing immediately. Again, colors are very similar. The general sense of this card, the general feel of this card is very similar to the one from the cell phone. So, Angel of Soul Love. The message for you, if you chose this card, or if you chose the cell phone, is very overlapping actually with the message for those of you who chose the pool skimmer, that it's time to unplug, that it's time to get outside, that it's time to connect, to walk barefoot, to smell the roses, to use a cliche, to hold a rock, to really touch the grass, to pet some moss. I love going into the woods and just sort of stroking the moss that's covering the rocks out there, to see if you can commune with the fairies, to admire the lightning bugs, to really be in nature. And the reason the cell phone is dusty and dirty, how that's coming into play, is because, actually a couple reasons. I'm hearing two reasons. One is it's been outside, and that's where it gets, when you go outside, you're going to get dusty, you're going to get dirty, you're going to roll your sleeves up, and if you're weeding, you might get a little dirt on you. And that's a good thing, because that means that you're really connecting with nature and being in nature. The other aspect of the phone being dirty is that it hasn't gotten much attention. So in other words, it's been set aside, it hasn't been a focal point, and other things that are nurturing for you right now are your focal point. So that's how it all ties together. So definitely an interesting theme here today, with a similarity between the pool skimmer and the cell phone, which tells me that many of you are really needing to be outside more in nature and really connecting with the elements of earth, air, fire, and water. Interesting synchronicity that all three cards are angel cards, which is a message in and of itself for the entire reading, and it's really a reminder that your angels are everywhere and they're not going anywhere. One last thing I want to say before we wrap up here is that there are a lot of traditions that many of us grew up with that have sort of gotten lost in translation. And I'm calling to mind, the campfire, singing around the campfire. My husband loves fires, so we will, with some frequency, light a fire in our fire pit and sit around and just enjoy being around the fire. Now, of course, you're not going to want to do this necessarily if it's really hot out, but I do encourage you to really think back and think carefully and mindfully and heartfully about how you're going to connect with nature, and really bringing in all those elements, those core elements of earth and air and fire and water, and really, really intentionally bringing those into your life. So important, so much a part of who we are and our foundation for what we carry on earth in this body. So with that, I pray that you have gotten exactly the message that you needed. I do invite you to visit AngelsTeach.com and check out all that we have to offer. I have been receiving guidance that we will be doing an angel communication basic training intensive later this summer. So for those of you who are looking to brush up on your angel communication skills or just dip your toe in the water, so to speak, if you're just starting out, definitely encourage you to check out AngelsTeach.com and see what we have to offer. With that, I wish you all a beautiful, beautiful, blessed month. Be well and blessings. I love you.